That tells me we're recording. And I'm sorry, I did a fair amount of research, but I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
Denhart.
Denhart, okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time sitting down with me. Thank you very, very much. All right, so I read the blog and so forth, and I read the great story about the conversation with your wife and, and the side eye and so forth. What was the genesis for the idea, and when did you, up here and here, pointing to my heart and my head, say, yep, this is it, I can do something with this?
You know, I don't honestly know why the idea popped in my head. You know, my wife and I, we've always kind of watched different HGTV shows. We, of course, watched a lot of the tiny house shows in addition to everything else that we used to watch. And I've always been kind of a handy guy. You know, we remodeled our own home for the most part, outside of a few projects where I knew we were over our own head. You know, so luckily I've always kind of known where to draw the line and trying to tackle something to where it was beyond my expertise. But, you know, we owned a business previously, and then I went to work for someone else for the last 3 years after we sold that business, and, you know, and then they laid me off, and so it was kind of in that job hunt. The frustration was starting to set in, and, you know, either we, you know, just miss a job, or, you know, was overqualified, or, you know, it just was increasingly more frustrating. And for whatever reason, starting a tiny home business just kept popping into my head.
Okay. And you've got a background, I mean, your degree is in industrial design and project management.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
So in this, how much of this experience has been, oh yeah, I remember covering that, or, you know, how much of that time, however long ago it was, impacts what you do here?
A little bit. Not as much from my actual degree field. The good thing about industrial design is it was more focused on consumer and product design. But what really taught me was a lot of the process, the design process, and that's really what I've kind of drawn on throughout all of life, let alone just this business. It taught you a little bit about a lot of different subjects, but it was mostly about the thinking process, how to solve a problem, how to solve and come up with good design, which really that's what tiny houses are all about. It's about coming up with good design that fits your clients exactly, their exact lifestyle, their needs, their wants. Because in order to be successful at living tiny like this, you shouldn't have to give up things. You know, a lot of people think of a minimalist lifestyle that I need to give up all this stuff. No, I don't agree with that. It's more about focusing on what you really want in life. And if you want to quilt in your life and live in a tiny house, then we're going to find a place to put your sewing machine and your cutting table and have room to. If that's a big part of you, you shouldn't have to give that up in order to live tiny.
Okay.
And so whatever that hobby is, if you're a sculptor, if you canoe, if you hike, if you ski, whatever, we're going to find a way to integrate that into the tiny house. Store those items, make room for you to do those items in the house, whatever it might be.
Okay. In terms of your vision, when you know when you decided this is it, this is what I want to do, can you articulate in a sentence or two, I want to, and Switchgrass?
Like where we want to go with this?
Yeah. What's your vision, or they call it an elevator pitch, but what is your vision for this product that you create?
You know, honestly, my real vision is not necessarily custom houses for individuals. I really see our company possibly growing down the path of business-related tiny houses, to where, you know, let's design a mobile tap room for the local microbrewery, or a tasting room for the local winery, micro distillery, or, you know, mobile boutiques, mobile wedding chapels. You know, I really think that is where we could really utilize our skills to the greatest extent and build something fantastic and have it be sustainable. You know, you look at that particular demographic and market, it's almost unlimited in the U.S. So, I mean, yeah, we'll build custom homes, but custom homes are very time-consuming, very involved. You know, it's a tough thing to do. There's a lot of regular home builders that get into tiny houses thinking, oh, it'll be easy to build a little tiny house. You know, I can build a ton of these things and make a killing, and it's nothing farther from the truth. I mean, they're very hard to build. Very complex and more difficult to build than a 2,000 square foot home by far.
Okay. Everybody, I'll say this, everybody's got things they're good at, whatever that might be. And then they got things that they're not very good at.
Yep.
So what would you say, as pertains to this business, what are you good at and what are you not good at? And how do you compensate for what you're not as good at?
Yeah. What I'm not good at is, you know, the mechanicals. You know, the wiring the house. You know, I can hang lights and change out switches and outlets, but beyond that, I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. You know, I can do the very basics of all those things, but beyond that, that's not my area of expertise. So we hire licensed contractors in this area that I've worked with for years to handle all of those things. What I'm good at is, you know, the design aspect, the thinking through problems. You know, because when you get going in a build, invariably there's going to be a problem that arises. You can't put something exactly where you want, or you drill a hole for the toilet flange and, oh, there's a 2x3 piece of tube steel from the trailer sitting right where you need to be. So it's troubleshooting those things. And that goes back on my industrial design days. It's what's the problem? What do we need to do to fix it? You know, I don't need a 2-hour dissertation as to why it went wrong. Just tell me what the issue is, and let's put our heads together and figure out what we need to do to fix it.
Okay.
And as far as skill level goes, you know, it's that, and then, you know, my real area of expertise is carpentry, specifically the finish work.
Okay.
You know, putting the wall skin up, doing the tongue and groove, doing the trim, you know, the exterior siding, those types of things. That's really where my area of expertise is. Not so much on the framing side. That's why I, again, bring in licensed, Dave here, he's a former union carpenter from the university. Great guy, good friend. Knew him from my previous career, and he's helping out with this one. So I have a pool of people I can draw on when needed.
Okay.
You know, to take care of certain things.
From a management standpoint, is it you?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's pretty much me. My wife helps a little bit. She's starting to help specifically with client communications, you know, so we can keep them updated on what's going on with the build, because, you know, for me during the day, we have a very active, precocious little 2-year-old at home that keeps us on our toes, and as such, I need to keep fairly regular business hours. You know, so once 5 o'clock hits, I'm pretty much done for the day. Because I gotta go pick him up and help take care of him before he goes to bed, and by the time we get something to eat, relax for an hour, it's time to go to bed and start all over again. So a lot of times in the mornings I might have an hour or two before people wake up that I can take care of some business related items. But you know, pretty much between 8 and 5, that's when I have to work. And that involves not only swinging a hammer at the actual build site, but that's taking care of my other clients, lining up new business, going and running and getting materials to keep the guys busy here. I've got plumbers or electricians here, I've got to manage them, so that takes me away from swinging a hammer. So it's very much a balancing act right now. You know, on the management side, I wear a lot of different hats. This is our thing, because we're just flat out not established enough, not big enough to really hire anybody, knowing that, okay, I'm scheduled out through the end of February, first part of March right now, but how can I, in my right mind, go and hire somebody full-time knowing I've only got 2 to 3 months of work left? Right. You know, it's the constant what's next. And, you know, if I'm 6 to 8 months out, okay, we'll look at that really seriously, you know, hiring somebody full-time. But right now, it's hard for me to commit to that. I don't want to make that commitment to somebody, knowing we've only got a very finite amount of work left.
I'll make sure this is still running. looks like it is. I'll go with that. So when you did first get this idea, how much research did you do, and what kind of research did you do? What kind of research did you do, you know, leading up to this, saying, okay, I'm, you know.
You know, I looked into what other tiny home businesses were around or close by, and really there was, you know, there was a pretty big, well-established tiny house company up in Chicago called Titan. You know, so obviously I kind of researched the competition a little bit, you know, and realized there's not really anybody in my exact area. You know, the closest builder was an hour and a half, 2 hours away in any direction. So that's a good thing, you know, as far as competition goes. A lot of online research, you know, research plans, design, you know, how to build them actually, anchor build trailers, trailer companies. Pretty much kind of made up our mind that we wanted to do this, but still I'd never actually set foot in a tiny house. So we took a day trip, actually my father and I took a day trip to a tiny home show in Lexington, Kentucky, and drove down there on a Friday, went through about probably 15 different tiny homes and talked to a bunch of builders and kind of got the final questions answered there. Okay. You know, that's where we found the certification organization that we're part of. That's where we found it. So I kind of solidified that. But yeah, that was the key. That was kind of the okay. Yeah, I can do this. After walking in them, seeing what else was out there, what the other builders are actually doing in person. You look at things online and pictures and videos can hide a lot. You know, they can hide a lot of true craftsmanship. And you know, we take pride in what we do. I mean, we're pretty proud of the craftsmanship and the quality of what we make house. My first house, we built it a year ago. It's got over 6,000 miles on it, and it's still as tight as the day we rolled it out of the warehouse.
Okay.
I mean, there's no joints opening up, none of that. It's tight as a drum. So, you know, there's not many 6,000-mile tiny houses out there that can say that.
So, do you have a specific target, consumer target or target market that you reach out to now, or you try to reach, and how do you do that?
You know, right now there's not really one specific group that we try and reach. We cast a pretty wide net, and the reason is honestly that right now in the tiny house world there are about two primary markets. One is your right out of college, whether it be single, married, you know, just want to live tiny. They don't have a lot of stuff. Probably don't have enough for a full down payment for a house. They don't want to be saddled with debt, so they're looking at tiny houses. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you know, it's a lot of your baby boomers, your retirees, kids are grown, out of school. We don't need a 3,000 square foot house anymore. You know, maybe we have adult kids, one in Florida, one in Wisconsin, and we just want to split time between the two locations and move our house twice a year so we can be with each kid and kind of snowbird at the same time. So that's another big market. And there's still another market of, you know, people that want it for a lake house or a second home, or even like an Airbnb type rental. There's people that are looking at those. So honestly, it's a pretty wide market out there for them, and so for that reason we kind of cast a pretty wide base right now. And most of it we do is, honestly, it's mostly social media. Okay. Staying active on social media, which when you got builds going on, it's pretty easy to do. But then also we try and go to quite a few shows.
Okay.
We went to several festivals this year, home and garden shows. We've got one coming up next weekend, actually, day through 10 over in Indianapolis. That we'll be going to with our so, and that's really where, because they market on social media, we market on social media. And so if somebody's interested in a tiny house and they're remotely close to the area, they're going to go to those shows. And some of the bigger shows, I mean, I went to a show in Georgia and met people that flew in from Chicago. Wow. You know, flew in from Chicago, drove in from Indiana to a show in Georgia. You know, So the bigger shows with a lot of houses, people will go quite a distance to go to those.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see. And you had said, so I just got done with this chapter on finances. When you're figuring out the job and the cost, do you, and if any of these questions are kind of more proprietary and private, please let me know. Do you build profit into your estimate, or the chapter says, for gosh sakes, profit is not what just happens to be left over. You build this in as a whatever percentage margin.
Yeah, I mean we try to. I know exactly what is in our model home. So I'm comfortable with the profit margin. Yeah, I mean, we try to build profit into it because, we've got debt that we use to start the business that we need to get paid back and this and that, plus money to live and so on and just build the business. If I weren't trying to build profit in, I'd be an absolute moron. But sometimes that's easier said than done. To get the first couple bids, we reduce the price a little bit. This particular project behind us is going to be on one of the HGTV shows. It's pretty popular, so we reduce the price a little bit, knowing that there will be some promotion coming out of it. With this exact style of build, where I really would love to steer the business towards more business-related tiny houses.
Yeah.
At the same time, too, sometimes building profit is a little easier said than done, because the tiny houses, they are very unique. They're very customized, very off products a lot of times, especially when it comes down to just a general home buyer buying them. And no two are alike. And so we've built 3 right now. All 3 of them have been very different. Our first one we use wood framing. The second and third ones we use steel framing. There's been some increased challenges that we weren't aware of until you get into it with using steel. So that affected our timeline, our labor costs, our sheer cost of fasteners, things like that. For instance, there's $500 worth of screws just to put the siding on the house that we didn't account for with the first project. And so the next projects, we'll account for that if we use steel, but it takes a lot more time to do finish work when it comes to steel framing versus wood. Pre-drilling and screwing in your plywood versus just blasting it with a nail gun. It takes a lot more time. You've got the increased screws and fasteners. You're burning through drill bits because it's structural steel, not just the cheap stuff you get in commercial settings. So with every project, until you get a booked volume of work under your belt to where you've encountered a lot of these different things, sometimes it's hard to account for the cost up front until you actually get into it and know in reality. You can estimate all you want, but until you do it, you don't really know whether that estimate's going to be accurate or not.
Is it difficult to either in previous work or in this? Is it a challenge to manage a client that says, "Oh yeah, I'd really like to get this too"? With any kind of construction or reconstruction or remodeling, how do you handle that if a client says, "Oh, you know what I'd really also like is if you could do this. That's going to be an additional expense." How do you manage that?
That's a learning process for us. The first project wasn't too bad. This particular project has been a challenge. We estimated a lot of things right up front, and we have a little bit of wiggle room within that. But there's a lot of misunderstandings sometimes. There's been a lot of unrealistic expectations, especially in regards to timeline. No matter what we've told them from the very beginning. You know, they have different opinion as to how quickly things should go. And in construction, you can only speed things up so much. You start to rush. When you start rushing, the quality goes down, you get injury, we're using scaffolding, power tools, all this kind of stuff. So if you're working 20 hours a day, you're getting tired using a 5-volt strong saw, that should happen. Just managing client expectations, and especially someone that doesn't know anything about construction. So it's been a learning experience for us how to do that, and we're slowly implementing more and more things, different forms and protocols for managing things, change requests, you know, things like that, because, you know, the shower in here has changed twice, you know, and it went from a very easy to install straight to studs, a couple hours and you're done, glue's on, you gotta wait for a day to let it set, you know, things like that. It just all affects the timeline. It starts backing things up, and a half day or a day here and there starts to add full days and weeks onto the schedule. And it's a challenge making people understand that without them thinking you're just pushing them off.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Every client turns into a 3-year-old in the back seat on a long drive. Are we there yet?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm the same way.
Yeah. And you know, and the other issue is we've got 2 more builds right behind this one. So if this one gets delayed a week, then it delays the start date of that next build a week, and it's just a domino effect. Yeah. So that's the other challenge. You're not managing just the client you've got right now. A lot of times you're managing the clients down the road as well with their expectations. So
I'm going to have 3 more questions.
That's fine.
If I have more, I'm cutting myself off. Otherwise, I know you got to get back to work.
Good. It's all right.
Are you concerned at all, or how are you anticipating going on HGTV and the amount of interest that you're going to get? That you're going to have to, you know, interact with folks, and some of them may be future clients, some of them may not be. But how are you planning on handling that?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. You know, part of that's, you know, my wife helping a little bit now with communications and things. I do know other buildings that they're on, so I ask questions of, okay, does the phone start ringing, did you start to get emails? You know, and a lot of times they do, and some of it is genuine interest, some of it's just people, for whatever reason, taking 5 minutes out of the day to send them an email saying, I don't like your house, which is kind of crazy, because who cares whether you like the house? It's whether my clients I built it for like it or not. You know, so if you want me to build you a house, I will make sure that I build one that you like. So it's, you know, honestly, I don't know. I don't know how we're going to handle it. We'll just kind of see what we can do. We've always had that ability to figure things out and go from there.
Do you have benchmarks that you want to see Switchgrass achieve? You know, a year, 2 years, 3, 5 years. Do you have those set, or what do those look like?
That's one of our goals. I'd really love to be able to ramp it up to where we can build, you know, at least one tiny house a month, and you know, get it cranked up to that point. We can do it. We have the manpower to do it consistently, and so on. Ideally, I'd love to. You know, one of the other goals is to have a piece of property to where we live on site, we build on site, maybe have a couple of tiny houses available for rent on site, so that we're all self-contained. I mean, I live a half hour away from here, so that's an hour every day commute time that I'm losing building or doing something else. So really, that is one of our goals. We'd love to get a community off the ground, whether that's part of where we live or not. I don't know, but you know, so there are a few goals with the business that we'd like to see, and really within a year, the biggest goal is to get the production time down, get enough production lined up that we can hire and shrink that schedule down to where I'm not being pulled in so many different directions. Like if I'm running materials, I've still got 2 people here working and swinging a hammer.
Yeah.
Instead of me running and getting materials and swinging a hammer stops. So those, it's mostly affiliated with that.
Is that your biggest challenge? Is that, I don't know what the metaphor is. If it's running downhill and just trying to keep your feet under you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right now that's that's the perfect metaphor, because we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. We've got a lot of builds going on. Shooting for 2 TV shows actually right now, 2 different HD TV shows. My model home and my first custom build got cast for Tiny House Hunters.
Oh, wow.
We're filming, the last day of filming for that is Saturday in Indianapolis. This build got cast for Tiny House Big Living, so we're filming this one again here on Friday, plus another couple days the following week or the week after. And so we're filming 2 TV shows, trying to get this build done, lining up the next one that I've got a trailer being built right now for in Colorado, plus another on a possible community, plus there's a show in a week and a half that we're going to be gone to, plus the fact that it's Christmas and we have a 2-year-old at home. You know, so it's, we're just trying to keep up and not completely lose our mind, not completely lose our health, and looking forward to having a week off at Christmas where I'm just going to be a couch potato.
Wow. Gosh. All right. So, as an innovation, you know, and I think that's what these are by definition, just a new idea. You know,
they are really.
How do you see this market that's kind of, I'm sure, crazy? How do you see it sort of settling out? And you mentioned the idea of more service business oriented. Do you see that? Do you see that happening? Do you see it continuing to grow 5-10 years from now, or what do you think? What do you think? And I don't even want to say tiny homes, because you know you talk about businesses.
Yeah.
What is this sort of structural model going to look like? Do you think 5 years from now?
You know, that's a really interesting question. That's part of the reason I want to see if I can veer off more towards business-related tiny homes. Because right now, your zoning ordinances in your cities, townships, municipalities, counties, they haven't caught up to allowing tiny homes yet. Your financial institutions haven't caught up with being able to lend for tiny homes. It's not very many of them. Your insurance companies, there's one that I know of that will privately insure tiny homes. So a lot of your insurance and financing, or just sheer where can you put a tiny house legally, in a lot of areas that hasn't caught up yet. So that's part of the reason, you know, there are areas that are catching up to that, but not necessarily tiny houses on wheels yet. When you do a tiny house on wheels, that throws another component into that to make it that much more difficult, because you're mobile. You're not tied to a property with a pin and all that's required to do a conventional mortgage. So that's why I kind of see a little bit better opportunity veering off to the business side, because it's not a permanent residence at that point. When you don't have those challenges, you roll in, you do a festival, you know, you roll in to do a beer festival, microbrewery with your own vibe, your own demographic, your own identity, instead of using the same generic white refrigerator trailer with taps on the side and a pop-up tent out front with an 8-foot table that everybody else does. You know, so that's why I want to veer that direction, because there's not as many zoning issues, regulatory issues that would control something like that on that market. So once the personal side does open up and become a little bit easier, then I think that market will catch up. It can be a little bit easier, but right now financing is the big one. Everybody's screaming for a national financing source for tiny houses because it's desperately needed. There are a few small banks that people have found to lend on tiny houses. I had a customer find one, but it's usually very small local banks, more of a credit union style bank. You know, your bigger guys don't want any part of it, and that makes it difficult, because that means if you can't find financing, which is very difficult, you got to pay cash. You know, or you got to go with a builder that's big enough to self-finance. And there's very, very, very few of those people out there. In fact, I'm not even sure there is a builder that self-finances. So that's the biggest issue. So that's why I kind of want to veer this other direction and this other area catching back up. I think it would open up a little bit easier market to get at.
Last one.
Sure.
I read you've traveled all around the world.
Yep.
Do you see, let's say I said, okay, you're out of North America. Where else have you seen, or would you see the potential for, again, this kind of a structural model in the world?
Definitely in Europe. In fact, there are some tiny house builders in Europe, specifically the Netherlands, I know of over there. In fact, I've got a couple of really good friends that live in the Netherlands that I found through previous travels and previous career. So yeah, I do see different opportunities over there possibly. Whether it's on wheels or not, I don't know, but already in certain areas of Europe, even Asia, they're already living in tiny houses. They're just, apartments or condos
right.
or whatever. Japan is a perfect example. So there are other areas. I know there's tiny house builders in New Zealand, Australia. So they're out there for sure.
Byron, thanks, man. That's once the third time the compressor goes off, that's it.
Hey, no worries.